Well, hello, my fabulous friends. I hope you're doing well. Well, I've been kind of sitting on this idea for this reading, and I had a viewer specifically ask me, and I had someone on X specifically ask me to do this reading. We're talking about the Challenger disaster, the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster that happened on January 28th, 1986. I remember it really well because that was my due date. So I was sitting at 40 weeks pregnant. And of course, you're hormonal. And I just remember bawling and bawling and bawling my eyes out, um, watching it live on TV. Back then, like people don't realize if you weren't living back then, it was a big deal to watch the space shuttle take off. So you'd find out what channel's on, you'd sit around and watch it take off. It was like something exciting to watch and to watch it in real time. And as soon as I remember looking and going, that's not right. What happened? What happened? So, anyways, here we are, almost 40 years, it'll be 40 years in January since that disaster. Seven people, all seven aboard on board, died. Here's the really sad thing. They did not die when the explosion happened. They think that the majority of them died when they hit the water in the capsule. And there's different reasons why they think that they were still alive, like buttons were pushed that just wouldn't have been pushed by gravity or speed or impact. Things like oxygen tanks and stuff. Apparently, it took 2 minutes 45 seconds for it to hit the ocean, and when it hit, it disintegrated. If you didn't die from fright, you have to remember there were civilians on there as well. If you didn't die from fright, then you definitely died when the capsule hit um, at 333 kilometers per hour, which I think is like 270, 260. Anyways, that's when the damage was done. God bless their souls. So there's lots of blame going around. There's even some conspiracy that it was all a psyop, and the people have been seen since then. So I want to ask, we're gonna do a deep dive. And I've also got the truth oracle on, but we're gonna do the story oracle. What's the story about the Challenger? Was it somebody was negligent? Were they negligent on purpose? Some people are. Was it really an accident? Was it sabotage? Um, and then we can go a little bit deeper and see if it was all a psyop and just all a movie. Shall we begin? Can't believe it's almost 40 years ago. Sudden illness. Well, I'm going to say that this was a sudden, like, right, the explosion is something very sudden. Hidden agenda. Desire in reverse. So no, there was a hidden agenda, but this was not the outcome they were looking for. Mischief. There was no mischief. There was no mischief. Moment of reflection. I'm going to say that this was not done on purpose. There was no sabotage. There was no desire to do this. There was no mischief. Um, I'm going to say there was some kind of hidden agenda, but it wasn't to destroy these people's lives. I'm wondering if the hidden agenda was money, budget, pressure to get this off on time, right? This was a very well media darling because there were civilians going on. One was a teacher. She was going to be teaching some classes, et cetera, et cetera. I think there was definitely a hidden agenda. I'm going to say this wasn't sudden illness. I'm going to say this was sudden death or sudden end of life. I'm going to say possibly heart attack. That's what I was thinking. Like, if you're falling from that and you know what's going on, um, like they say, sometimes people who jump from very high buildings, they're actually dead before they hit the ground because their body has a heart attack. I'm wondering if some of them had heart attacks before they hit the ground, before they hit the ocean. But there definitely was no sabotage going on here. No help here on the hidden agenda. Okay, so I'm getting that there were pressures from above. No help. Like, here, this is your budget, or these are the timeline that we're under. This is, we've got all the media. This shuttle has to take off at this time on this date. Push it, push it, push it. So there was some kind of hidden agenda here, but they what they needed and what they wanted was falling on deaf ears. Hoarder. Nobody got any extra money for this at all. All according to plan. This was, yeah, we're getting so many messages here that this was not in the plans at all. If this was upright, look, if these were upright, mischief, according to plan, hoarder, desire, somebody was paid. When you think about it, the Cold War was going on. Did Russia find a spy and got a spy in there and said, make sure you blow this one up and make sure it's this one because the world will be watching because there's civilians on there? Absolutely, that did not happen at all. I'm getting that it was pressure from above. Forgiveness. Oh, wow. There is somebody who cannot forgive themselves for what happened. High drama. It was very high drama. Very, very high drama. For until it took months to do all the final funerals. Of course, they were all televised and attended by dignitaries and whatnot. I think it wasn't. I think the last funeral was like in May. I'm not kidding it because, you think about it. Apparently, there were body parts they couldn't identify what belonged to who. Um, because they didn't have DNA back then, right? Otherwise, they just would have done a DNA test and they would have been able to sort them all out. The majority of them were cremated with what body parts they could ascertain belonged to who. Um, Storm. The weather was clear. I'm not going to say there was an actual storm, but it did create a storm. They grounded the shuttle for I think it was a year and a half or 2 years. There was all kinds of inquiries and um, whirlwind, and yeah, it did create somewhat of a storm. If you think about it, you think it did blow up into a cloud with things shooting out, right? I wonder if there was something electrical. I didn't quite understand um, the ins and outs, how a shuttle works or whatever. But if they would go back and show you could see some fuel coming out of somewhere it shouldn't be coming out, or could have been an electrical issue. Bright idea. Somebody had somebody changed something. One person wanted to change something, a bright idea, either to push something through so it got off on the right day, or to save money, or to reuse parts, or not to check parts. It is one person's decision. A bright idea one person had. Narrow path in reverse. I'm going to say that it had broad implications. Together, rebirth, yes, absolutely. Rebirth of the whole system and everything. Follow that car. And stranger, stranger. Did somebody who, did somebody go into hiding afterwards? Were afraid to show their face? I think this is telling me they followed well, they had to follow new procedures after that. I wonder if somebody came in and showed them what they did wrong. This stranger here, I that would be like the inquiry, right? The thing is when you have an something like that, you need somebody um, on the outside to come in to look at everything with fresh eyes. So I was going to read, depending on what these cards said, if these people were still alive, but I'm getting that they are not. I'm getting that they are not alive. This I'm getting they died together, and then a rebirth and a new procedures of the whole program. Um, let's see what we can get some from the Truth Oracle. What can you tell us? What can you clarify about the Challenger, the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster? Finances. What did I tell you? This all had to do with budgets, on budget and on time, not with a space shuttle. Talent, born with features, personality. They had all the proper talent there. Miss you, miss, wait, yeah, look at, and falling into the ocean. I think the cards are definitely clarifying that these people are no longer with us. Torment, yeah, and the torment that it caused people. Look for investigation, explore, search. I'm not getting anything that this was a psyop. I'm getting that there's still an investigation. I think it boils down to money. I think it was one person's decision, but he was being pressured from above. And I think that there's some people that are attached to some of the people who died that still look across the ocean and wish one day they would come out. I think there's a lot of torment there. Um, yeah. I mean, could you turn it around and say, "Oh, these people were paid off and now they're doing something else and they can't talk to their family and go look for them?" Well, of course you could. But at the same time, these other cards are telling us um that's that this is actually true. Again, I'm going to say if we had according to plan mischief, desire, hoarder, right? Then I'd say, wow, was that according to plan that it was a psyop and these 7 people now have disappeared into wherever because they want to torment their loved ones? No, doesn't make sense to me. So, anyways, there we go. It was nothing, there was no spy or espionage. This had everything to do with budget and budget of time and money, perhaps, or where can we save money, or even the finances could be, when you think about it, oh, you have to use my cousin's O-rings. That's the contract I got for them. I'm not saying that's what it was, but you know what I mean? Oh, my cousin's company owns this that are supplying this, and so we have to use it, whether it's a good product or not, because there's the contract there, underhanded contract. I think there still is something here with finances. So either a contract and you know how those contracts work with politicians, right? So here's an example. We have a mayor here in Edmonton who's allegedly very crooked, and he hires his brother's trucking company, and his brother's trucking company charges more than anybody else. So let's say the contract's $1 million, his brother charges the city $2 million. Well, do you think that the brother gets all 2 million of that? Or do you think the mayor gets 1 million and the brother gets 1 million? That's how those contracts work. So if somebody from above is saying, we're using my cousin's, or we have to use this company's thing, and you're like, yeah, but that's not the right thing, and it's really expensive, your alarm bells should go off. And I think that's what's happened here. I think that this look for, investigation, explore, and search is, I think they should look a little bit closer into something about the finances. But is it too late? You know, you think about it, it's 40 years ago. Everybody involved, even if they were 30, 40, they're 70, 80 now. Are they even alive? I mean, maybe they're even 50, 60 back then. Are they even alive? Um, Especially with this stranger card here. This could be an investigator, or this could be somebody who made some money off of it. All uphill from here. Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get the complete whole truth, even though there's been a lot of studies. But I will tell you, and I'm quite adamant, these people passed away that day, and they are no longer with us. And this was pressure from above. Somebody made some decisions. Was it because the media was relentless on what day this was going to happen? Who knows? Somebody knows. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Please take good care. See you online. Bye for now.